If you've played any story-based game through to completion over the years, you know this feeling, that strange mixture of anticipation and dread that you feel in the pit of your stomach as you realize that you are in the end game now. This is what the entire game has been building towards from the moment we press start, and the tension has become so thick you could cut it with a Darksaber. The mood has shifted from playful exploration and monotonous level grinding to a singular sense of purpose to finish the game. There are no more side quests in our mission log. There's no more party members that have anything new to say. The ambient soundtrack that was guiding us through every battle and interaction up to this point is now eerily subdued.
The moment of truth is here, and once we walk through that final door, we know that this is it. All that we have been building towards, the skills that we gained, the items that we gathered, the choices that we made, and the questions we want answers to, have all reached their point of convergence.
But if you're anything like me, you do one final thing before you press the action button that will set these final wheels in motion. You check one last time to make sure you are fully ready to walk through those doors, because you know they represent the point of no return. Check and make sure I have the right armor equipped. The chosen weapons that I want to use have been reloaded, my backup ammo, my health kits are at their maximum capacity. I usually even save my game one last time for good measure.
You do, don't
I
you?
didn't come this far and work this hard to get this part wrong, because this moment is the one that matters the most.
He's really into this right now, because this is how he gets. He's always like so
Super
anxious when he's at
intense.
the end. He always tells me, babe, I'm at the end. I'm at the end. Come watch.
Yes, but don't say anything.
But don't say anything. Don't mess
Don't
it up.
spoil the movie.
I'm like, okay. In this glorious day and age of information accessibility that we live in, being successfully prepared for the endgame is easier than ever. A simple internet search can provide us with everything from recommendations on our best items to equip for our finals battles, to full video walkthroughs that demonstrate winning tactics that we simply need to mimic in order to ensure success.
As a matter of fact, we can remove all the mystery from the in-game experience before we've even started the game if we desire.
But who's going to do that?
Apparently somebody. There's no shortage of spoiler content generated by other players just like us that will show us every possible outcome based on the different choices that we made in our respective playthroughs. So making ourselves ready for the end game has never been more user-friendly, allowing us the luxury to either start our game with knowledge of the ending already in hand, or we can look for answers in the middle of the game, or we can simply stop at the final save point and take a sneak peek ahead before we cross the event horizon of our game and head into the grand finale.
Now, sure, it takes some of the surprise out of the adventure when we already know what's coming next, and I personally know many gamers who truly want a spoiler-free experience, like him, so they can experience the ending without any external input.
But what if we only had one try at the final boss fight? What if our lack of preparation for the ending made the game impossible to complete successfully? And this frustration could have been avoided by making one critical decision far earlier in the game that would have completely altered the outcome. I think we would all feel much differently about having an unspoiled view of the endgame if we knew that the game would only let us try our hand at the last level one time. And we would have to live with that unchangeable result with finality. No extra lives, no continues, no save points to restore. Just a closing cinematic that can never be altered once it's been unlocked and viewed.
That would be an interesting game to create. I almost kind of want someone
I
to
think
make
we'd all
something like
hate
that. But wouldn't it be interesting?
Like, it's done, you don't even get to replay it, it's locked forever
you're
for
done.
you.
And then when you die, it's over.
Yeah,
The game's over.
However you ended it. We would probably at that point want to be 100% certain of our preparation and strategy for such an event. And in our real world lives, we all have this option if we're willing to take advantage of it. A decision that the Apostle Peter eloquently described as making our calling and election sure.
Here's a personal challenge I have struggled with on many occasions. How can I know that I am fully prepared for life's endgame?
I mean, even as someone who has believed in Christ from a young age, I have struggled with this question on and off for years. Throughout my life, I have failed the Lord more times than I can count. I have walked the path of the prodigal son. I've backslidden in my faith. And while I'm many years removed from the episodes of my life that represent my greatest regrets, in my deepest moments of unfiltered honesty, I still question the deepest motives of my heart at times. Am I following the Lord because of my love and commitment to Him? Or is my faith and obedience simply an act of self-preservation? Am I serving Him with my whole heart, Or is my knowledge of the eternal outcomes of my decisions my true guiding force?
In gamer terms, I have already spoiled the endgame for myself, so I know how the endgame plays out. I know what I have to do in order to win the game. So now I have to question if I'm actually being true to myself as I play this game, or am I simply copying someone else's answer to the test? How can I truly make my calling and election sure when I'm actively questioning my own motives at so many points during the day?
All right. That's enough questions. It's time to find some answers. And the clock is ticking on our final date with a destiny that will not be denied. We do know that one way or another, we will all face this moment. We all have an invitation to the endgame of life. It cannot be avoided or delayed. Regardless of our faith in Christ, there is one indisputable truth that everyone must accept. We will all depart this plane of existence at some point in our finite human lives. While opinions differ on what occurs at this conclusion, reaching that ending is inevitable. That Thanos snap is coming for all of us. And while believers in Christ know that death has lost its sting, just like a gauntlet that's missing the Infinity Stones, those fingers being snapped still means the endgame is truly upon us. It is time to proceed with our final selections to the checkout counter because the store is closing. All we control is the decision now on how we choose to prepare for that.
Here's the truth about our endgame in life that has brought me peace even as I still engage in my daily battles with my own sinful nature. As usual, the secret is right there in the verse.
My goal is right there in verse 11. I want an entrance into his eternal kingdom. Now, how do I accomplish that outcome? It looks like there's two things to do. Make my calling and election sure, and do these things that were referenced in verses 5 through 8. So let's start with a phrase that I personally misunderstood for decades: to make our calling and election sure. When reading 2 Peter 1:10, looking at the original Greek, we should carefully consider what the words calling and election truly mean. So a calling is a divine call. It's something that's coming from God. When we look at election, it's talking about a choosing out, a selecting, again, a choice by God, a selection out of and to a given outcome. Now, for many years, I completely misinterpreted that verse because I thought I understood what calling and election meant. I assumed what this meant was that the Lord is the one who called me, and I'm the one who made the choice or election to follow him. This was a mutually entered relationship, a contract. Both sides have an equal role in fulfilling. I could not have been more incorrect. The calling and the election referred to in this verse have nothing to do with me, and everything to do with the Father and his calling and selection of me. Because both of those words in that verse are referring to the Lord, not to us. And here's the proof. That word that's translated calling in this verse is only used 11 times. And in each instance, it is referring to the Lord's calling of us, never the other way around. So far, so good. What about the election word in that verse? Now, that word was used by Peter specifically for a reason. It's only found 7 times, including this particular point in the entire New Testament. And in every instance of its usage, it is referring to the Lord's choice of us, not the other way around.
7 times this word is used. 7 times it is referring to the Lord's selection of his chosen people, not of his people's choice of him.
And now, my confidence in approaching him at the end of my days reaches a point of clarity. If I was planning to stand in front of him based solely on my choices, my decisions, my works, and my selection of him, I have missed the point entirely.
My confidence in the endgame is not based on me choosing him, but him choosing me. As these scriptures and so many more successfully demonstrate, the Lord chose us first. He loved us first. And because of this, my assurance in standing before him is based on my faith that he has called, loved, and selected me.
Now, we aren't done yet. Don't stop right here and say, okay, we're good. Before we rush off with an incomplete vision of our security in Christ, we do have to complete this entire gaming analogy. As I stand before the game's final door to reveal its last secrets, there are 2 sides to this finale. I have confidence that as I cross the threshold of the endgame, I was destined for this moment. The developer of the game, they designed this game for me to win.
If I need additional reassurance, I can watch online videos and read the accounts of others who have previously played the game to completion for tips. Many times I can even find an online strategy guide from the publisher that prepares me for this final encounter, walking me through the entire game from start to finish.
But my ability to make my calling and election sure includes a responsibility that is demonstrated in how I play this game. And that is the part we cannot afford to miss. The developer of the game can do everything in their power to set us up for seeing the mission complete screen. But I do still have to play the game within the parameters of their guidance if I want to see the final credits roll.
This entire concept placed together, we can now fully understand our ability to find security and confidence in standing before the Lord while still reconciling this with his expectations for his followers during our time here on earth.
Our eternal security is firmly based on the Lord's calling and election of us. That is scripturally indisputable. And the proof of this calling and election is similarly confirmed. We can have confidence that we know him and are following him through our ever-growing obedience to him. How do I know that my gaming avatar was destined to see the ending of this game? Because the developer already built that victorious cinematic into the game before I ever press start. But I only get to see that ending if I choose to play the game the way the developer designed it, fulfilling a plan that was scripted before I ever even possessed the game. A finale that still requires my faithful participation if I want to see that achievement unlocked or trophy awarded screen.
As followers of Christ, it is imperative that we stand in full confidence that he who has begun a good work in us will be faithful to complete it. We are specifically told that we should have boldness and confidence both in this life as well as when we face our end game.
Even though we've messed up, his gifts and callings are irrevocable. It is the whispering lies of our enemy that tries to convince us that we should be insecure in our faith, or that Christ's redemption of us was somehow insufficient. Let us soberly but boldly approach his throne of grace, knowing that we are coming as invited guests to this joyous in-game celebration, not because of our works or deeds, but because of his.
And because he has chosen us, we can walk in confidence on our path to the end game, one step of obedience at a time.